For centuries together, dental surgeons are treating patients. Our primary goal is to restore the lost tooth structure or restore the lost teeth. While restoring the lost tooth structure, amalgam was extensively used. It still is used, and then it got replaced with composite resins. So, we are using composite resins on day-to-day basis and trying to restore the lost tooth structure and try and give it the form what it had originally. When the tooth is badly mutilated, we still go ahead and try saving the tooth by treating it endodontically. Once the endodontic treatment is over, we need to give some form to the tooth, so that the occlusion gets restored back and the tooth is secure. So, we offer porcelain fused to metal crowns. We also have possibility of metal free crowns. Initially, it was restricted only to the anterior region, but now we are getting better materials, and with these materials like zirconia, we can restore even posterior teeth with crowns which are metal free. Beyond this, what treatments are offered in a clinic are extraction. Extractions of teeth are done only when nothing else can save the tooth. This should be our last modality of treatment. And as extractions are done, our second job starts, and that job is of restoring lost teeth. It could be partial loss, as you are seeing in this picture, or it could be complete loss, making that patient edentulous. Now, when this happens, we have different ways of offering the restorations, but while doing so, we cannot ignore the expectations of patient. So, what are those? All the patients, irrespective of their age, want the restoration or the processes which is aesthetically pleasing. They also demand satisfactory function of mastication as well as phonetics to be stable, retentive, and given a choice, fixed. Now, while giving the conventional processes, we had complete dentures in a completely edentulous patients, and these complete denture patients used to wear these dentures for some period of time and eventually land in a situation, especially a case which I am showing you here is of a 51-year-old female patient. She is controlled diabetic. She has fixed prosthesis in upper jaw supported by 6 teeth. Lower jaw, as you can see in the picture, is edentulous, and she was wearing conventional removable complete denture in lower jaw for past 10 years. Now, at 51, she is still young. She complains that the dentures are not retentive anymore, and all of us can see in the photograph that all the muscles are pulling the soft tissue. There is hardly any vestibular depth, and the mucogingival junction looks very close to the crest, obviously because the bone has resorbed. There are several reasons for this bone resorption. The first is her biomechanics. Upper jaw has fixed teeth, lower jaw has removable processes. She is diabetic. Diabetic is known to cause secondary osteoporosis. So, her bones are suffering. She is 51, so she is in a postmenopausal period of her life. That also can aggravate the physiologic osteoporosis. So, there are several reasons for this lady to suffer. Now, what answer do we have at age of 51 when she says the dentures are not retentive, upper teeth are fine, they are fixed on support of natural teeth. she is unable to chew. She says, I have to just gulp rice every day, and being diabetic, I am not supposed to be eating rice. So, why are we asking these patients to face this situation? Why can't we offer them implants at age of 41? Or the patients who have lost teeth in short span, few teeth are lost. We give them partial dentures. They could be metal dentures, cast partial dentures, they could be acrylic dentures. How many of them really like it? Most of them refuse it. Most of them want fixed prostheses. So, when we give them fixed prostheses, at some point of time in their life they come back. It could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, 20 years, but some point of time they really do come back. And when they come back, there is a huge compromise. This photograph shows you a photograph of a young lady, she was 32. She was complaining of fixed prosthesis which was mobile now. She is a lawyer, so she says, I need these teeth, and when I speak, now they have started moving, so please do something. This prosthesis was given to her at age of 21. I understand she was young then, but she is still young at 32. Her professional demands are high. So, when we tried checking that fixed bridge that was gone wrong, under the bridge what was seen was nothing but huge compromise. When we look at this compromise, we can honestly agree on one point, that this compromise is maybe partly due to her hygiene, but we are also responsible for it. It is iatrogenic. For a single lost central incisor in an accident, we could have given her one implant and not compromised 4 more teeth. Today at 32, 4 teeth are in a compromised state and her demands are still high and she has a long way to go. When we look at such patients who have received bridges which are connecting canine to the last molar, these patients continue to use these prostheses till one night they start getting pain. Next day morning, the first thing they would do is rush to the clinic. When you look at the prosthesis, you find the prosthesis is slightly loose. If you ask the patient, he says, no, I am fine, I function till last night I was eating, then suddenly at night I started getting pain. When you remove the prosthesis, you realize that the last tooth has paid for it, and the last tooth is now beyond repair, beyond restoration. Now, if you remove that tooth, what is lost is a long edentulous distal extension span and there is no bone. So, now you need to first graft this, make bone, give implants and give teeth. Instead of this, when these teeth were lost, if we would have offered this patient implants, 3 more teeth would not have been compromised. Sometimes patients are very demanding and patients push us with their unscientific demands. They almost compel the dental surgeons for the treatment they wish to have. But we need to be firm and confident in our treatment plans. We need to face those patients with our own decided treatment plan and should be able to say that I take decisions in this clinic. I understand you want something which is fixed, but it is not possible. Let us look at these photographs. This patient has received a partial denture which he is supposed to be removing every night, but that partial denture with help of wires and acrylic was stuck to his original teeth. Look at the amount of compromise, look at the ulcers below the denture, look at the hygiene he is not able to maintain. Look at this bridge which was made 6 months ago. The central incisor, which is full of tartar, did not collect tartar in 6 months. That means this tooth was compromised even then. Patient insisted to have fixed teeth, so fixed teeth were offered. There is one classic example of a patient. I am showing you that OPG of the patient. He had 2 bridges, one in upper jaw and one in lower jaw. He came to me all the way from long distance and told me that he wishes to have fixed teeth. He said, I am a healthy individual, I am 70, I am a farmer, I am a healthy individual, I have no medical problem. My only problem is my teeth, and I wish to eat food which is raw, I wish to eat food which is crunchy, and the teeth are not giving me that satisfactory function. When I asked him to open his jaw for examination, you can see those bridges which are unhygienic, not maintained, and while examining, I touched his upper bridge because he said the lower bridge is functioning well, upper has a problem. When I touched the upper bridge, this was what happened. The bridge came down with the roots intact inside on one side, and the other side was still hanging in the mouth. Naturally, my reaction was, oh my God. And the next statement I said is, I haven't done it, because I thought now he is going to catch me by my neck and say that you have removed teeth with the bridge. But he was a kind patient. He said, oh Dr. Nene, you don't worry, nothing happened. This has been happening for past 2 years, I will fix it back. And he fixed it back. And all of us were so surprised that for 2.5 years, this bridge comes down and he pushes it back. So I asked him that, why did you not see any doctor 2 years ago? He said, it was not so loose. Nowadays, every time I open my mouth, it comes down. So I thought you have some magic glue and you can cement this same bridge so that this doesn't fall down. Now from this photograph to the last photograph, I took 45 minutes convincing him that forget only your upper teeth, your lower bridge also needs to go. If you allow me to extract all your teeth, only then I am going to treat you. And only on a promise that I give him fixed teeth which are supported by implants, he allowed me to do so after 45 minutes of discussion, and then I extracted those long bridges. I fondly call them Lakshman Jhulas because they used to move, and then we treated him with implants. So the moral of the story is that doctors who are treating patients in such a fashion are getting pushed by the unscientific demands of the patients and are treating them with huge compromises. Let's look at the patient again. What are the needs of the patient? Does she understand what is fixed denture? Does she understand what is removable denture or an implant? If you ask her, what do you want? She says, I have lost tooth, I just want the tooth back. That's about it. You tell me, which way will you restore that lost tooth? I had a tooth, I lost it for some reason, I want it back. So finally, you are going to guide these patients and tell them that all those ideal functions which you were wanting to be restored can be given to you by this treatment. So we must look for some treatment, and that treatment would restore the function of mastication, aesthetics, phonetics, and physiologically also maintaining bone and stable soft tissue. Now this third point will not be understood by the patient unless you make him aware of it. So you need to tell the patient that when the tooth is lost, the bone also will be lost. The bone will resorb, it will continue to resorb. As the bone goes away, the soft tissue shrinks with it, soft tissue goes away. So if you want to have maintained bone and soft tissue, the physiology maintains it till the time you have teeth. The teeth are lost, now I will give you implant, because implant is nothing but a root again with which will support the tooth. So it is an artificial tooth. We also need to try one more aspect, and that one more aspect is mimicking the nature. And it's my dream that the day that patient gets a tooth on an implant and nobody can make out that is an implant without taking a radiograph, and then I have done my job. So not even any other dentist should be able to recognize that this is implant supported tooth. He should be able to say that, oh, is it an implant? It looked like a tooth. Even I thought it is a tooth. So if we want to achieve that goal, then we must start offering implants to patients. It could be an immediate implant, like this photograph. The tooth is lost, it's broken, implant is placed and immediately receives a provisionalization. Or at a young age, a molar is lost, an implant is given there, and on that implant he gets a crown which does not compromise adjacent teeth. Adjacent teeth have their own individual way of maintenance. They may have fillings, they may have crowns, or they may be healthy teeth. You are not compromising them. Now, how do you convince a patient for this? To convince the patient, you should have predictable result. And to have that predictable result, you must have confidence. How will you have confidence? The confidence is based on your knowledge. The confidence is based on how you treat the patient in surgery, how do you manage the soft tissue, bone, the compromises, the complications occurring in surgery, after the surgery, and how do you complete the processes. But to get that predictability in results, you must have a proper protocol of case selection. Your treatment planning has to be ideal, and you also must have an implant system which is reliable. The primary selection is important. In this fundamental course, we are going to learn about all the extraoral examination factors, all the intraoral examination factors in detail in the lecture on treatment planning. This is just one example of challenging aesthetics. The first photograph shows you a smile of a girl with a low lip line. Though her demands are high in aesthetics, her gingival zenith is not a big problem, because in this smile also you hardly can see her gingiva. The gums are not seen. Compare the second picture with a high lip line. When she smiles, the entire tooth surface with part of the gums are also seen. When she has such high lip line, she is going to be a patient with challenging aesthetics. A small mistake and her smile completely gets compromised. So we must choose a patient with all those ideas of what can happen, what can go wrong, how to avoid mistakes. Intraoral examination is important. Hard tissue, soft tissue, intermaxillary relationship, there are many more points. If you go through them quickly, this photograph shows you bone which is slightly compromised. The tooth was lost just 5 months ago, but he still is in a compromised state of bone. So obviously he had some problem, and the problem could be chronically infected endodontically treated tooth. So we are not going to take this case as a straightforward case. He may require some kind of manipulation. What I expect after opening in this case is maybe poor quality bone, bone which already has some residual infection, and so on. Intermaxillary relationship is important. General as well as local classification is important. We must find out about the habits of a patient, whether patient is a bruxer, patient has occlusal wear, patient is a smoker, does he chew tobacco. There are a lot of points, and all these are detailed in our lecture on treatment planning. You cannot restore this patient with implants unless his complete oral rehabilitation is planned, is offered to him, and he has accepted it. Medical imaging and medical screening are two aspects of implantology which are very, very important. You must have biochemical evaluations of patients and find out about his health status. Nobody has given us authority to compromise his health. No patient can die without a tooth. Our implant surgeries are surgeries which are elective surgeries, they are not life-saving surgeries. So, without finding out whether patient has diabetes, without looking at his blood evaluations and only depending on how he looks, or he said, oh, I am young, I have no disease, we cannot go ahead and place implants. Maybe he is 20, but he is having some renal problem. We never know. So, you need to check that. As a doctor, it is our responsibility to care for his health. His health is my primary goal. Then secondly, I treat him for the surgery. Medical imaging techniques, we will have independent lectures on OPG, CT scans. We must know all the possible techniques of imaging which give us insight for that case. IOPs are handy, they give us best resolution pictures, but have limited extent. The entire panorama is seen only on OPG, but OPG has limitations. It does not give us the exact length and width. It has possibility of magnification, it has possibility of overlapping of images. Position sensitive technique. CT scans are expensive, CT scans, the radiation dose is high, but it gives us knowledge, much more knowledge of that patient before planning. There are many more steps in diagnostic evaluations, and all these steps are going to take us to a comprehensive successful treatment plan. Now, while doing so, we also cannot ignore on possibility of intravenous conscious sedation. Not all patients are going to be compliant. Some of them are going to be very anxious, and that anxiety will not allow you to do a good surgery. They will stop you 10 times, they will cough, they will get tired, they will ask, is it over? So, it is better that such anxious patients are sedated, they are sleeping, but they are conscious. We also have one lecture on intravenous conscious sedation, because this technique allows you to also treat patients for normal dental treatment who require some kind of anxiolysis. We also have possibility of ambulatory general anesthesia, where patient is not admitted, but treated under GA in a hospital, or some cases we can think of hospitalization and under GA we operate. Asepsis is something which can never be ignored. In this photograph, what you are seeing is the operatory where I operate. You are seeing anesthetist who is sedating the patient. We have possibility of also giving GA to the patient in the operatory, and everything that comes on the drape is sterile or it is disposable, which is pre-sterilized. We cannot compromise on asepsis. We are placing a foreign body inside the body, and we cannot rely on antibiotics and keep praying that everything goes well. It is better to rely on science. Then choosing the implant system, the market is full of systems. We need to have some idea of selection, and while selecting, we must look at some general criteria, and we must find out that for how long that company has been manufacturing implants, whether the implants have approval as CE mark or FDA approval to sell it in Europe or USA, because they have quality controls. FDA approvals are not given to everybody. So, we must check that. We must check their manufacturing conditions. Do they have their own manufacturing units, or are they making implants on any CNC machine? And if they are not manufacturing in their own units, then the quality is questionable. Second point you can never forget is research and development. You must find out whether the company has their R&D center, their own department. Do they have animal model studies? Do they have publication, and those publications in international journals? Are universities affiliated with the company? Because company has one goal, company has goal of making money, but universities will have some other goals, and those goals would be to find out the truth of science. So that research is very important. Look for any implant which is sold in the market by the company and not the dealer as an individual, because dealers can stop dealing with that company one day and you will face problems. Once you place an implant, for lifetime you are responsible for that patient and whatever processes and the problems occurring in that prosthetic phase. So it's always better to look for a company which is there in market for very long time and they give you support. Another point which is important is of global acceptance. Are you placing implants which are locally manufactured in India or some country around India, or you're placing implant which is used globally? I would go for a globally acceptable implant, because my patients come from various countries. I get NRIs, I get foreigners. You may have a neighbor who's residing next door today, and suddenly one day he says, oh, I'm moving to Canada for good. You never know. So why give him an implant which is unheard of? Why can't you give him an implant that can also get treatment in Canada or Australia? So we must think of all these points. Then there are some specific criteria of selection of shape of implant is important. Are you doing immediate implant? Are you placing it in a molar or anterior tooth? What would be the emergence? What would be the aesthetic outcome? What is the surface treatment? Because will that surface treatment allow me to load that implant in 2 months? What are the various prosthetic options? This is so important, that I must have an implant which gives me all the possibilities of prosthetic options. Because after placing the implant in a prosthetic phase, if you are stuck and if company says that, oh, we don't manufacture this kind of prosthetic part, how are you going to complete the treatment? Then you must look for all the possibilities of immediate loading or delayed loading. Nothing should compel you. That implant should not be a single piece implant compelling you for the loading. After the stability in surgery, you decide if it can be loaded. So it has to give you that flexibility. So surgeon should have flexibility, prosthodontist should have flexibility, and the patient also should be able to choose from various prosthetic and surgical options. Look for a user friendly and a versatile system. Your chairside assistants are not educated as you are. So they don't understand the finer details and the differences between 4.3 and 4.5. But if they get color coded system, if they get a system which is versatile, then they are working with you with pleasure, because it's so easy to recognize a blue part and a red part and a yellow part without knowing what is the length and the diameter. This case is an immediate implant where patient is a young girl. She met with an accident. You can look at that radiograph which shows the fracture. All of us know that the fracture cannot heal. It's not fractured bone, it's fractured tooth. So the tooth has to go. And as this tooth is extracted, the best possibility at age of 22 is of an implant. And what you are seeing here is that extracted fractured tooth, and she has received immediate implant, and that immediate implant is initially not loaded, so she gets temporization, and after protocol loading time she gets final prosthesis which looks as good as her own tooth. And I am sure all of you will be happy that if your patient gets a tooth like before, then she does not need any more treatment. Or you get a patient like this with bilateral edentulous posterior maxilla and mandible. You can very well see in a CT scan that only anteriors are present and one of the anterior tooth also is compromised. Maxilla has pneumatized sinuses, so it requires grafting. So, it is going to be a long procedure treating her, but a patient at 41 when comes to you with no molar in her mouth and she is unable to chew food and she is using anteriors for masticating, which are not supposed to be the grinders, she is going to lose those teeth soon if you do not restore the posteriors. So, why can't we give a smile back on her face? Why cannot we do treatment which is concurrent with the science which is practiced all over? Why do not we start doing implants and not start doing implants by looking at somebody's cases, but by learning it, putting efforts in it and knowing the science, the fundamental science which supports it. This subject is a combination of 3 subjects. It is oral surgery, periodontology and prosthodontist. None of these branches can say that they are the implantologists. It is a combination, and to have that knowledge you have to be master of all these 3 subjects, and only then you will be able to give a successful treatment. Let me show you a few cases which will give a situation or create a situation of dilemma in our practice. A young patient who encounters trauma, a roadside accident, young girl lost her anterior, one anterior was lost 1 year ago and this year she lost one more tooth. Such a patient, we always have question mark in mind that she is just 22, she wants fixed teeth, I am not going to cut her lateral incisors, I am not going to add her canines, implant would be the best way. A patient who encounters horizontal or vertical fracture, these are all ideal cases for implants. Patients who already got the root canal treatment done and subsequently had fractured their teeth. So, that fractured tooth looks like this. This patient can be treated with implant without changing her aesthetics. Her spaces between the teeth can be maintained because the implant is self supported and she does not require to wear a removable denture. A patient who had a post and that post fractured and now he has lost that tooth, this would be an ideal case, obviously not for immediate implant because he has acute infection and also buccal dehiscence, but he can have implant after some manipulation. Then routinely we keep retreating patients. Previously treated root canal teeth come to you, and I am proud that in our clinic we are retreating them and we are saving those teeth. We are going even to the extent of using operating microscope for retreatment. I am proud. We are not endodontist, but I am proud of it. Why? Because I love teeth. If I can save a tooth, nothing like it. So, my first priority always is saving tooth. If I cannot save tooth, only then the extraction and implant is offered. Why? Because implant also has its own limitations. You cannot overlook them. So, whenever the natural tooth can be saved, go ahead and save it. I am proud to show you this case. This case was done almost 8 years ago. She already has 4-5 implants in rest of her jaw, but these 2 premolars what you are seeing had compromised endodontic treatment, and we retreated her and told her I cannot promise that these teeth will survive. The prognosis is guarded, but we will try. And you can see the difference between the pre-operative photograph and the post-operative photograph, and she still has these teeth. But then at times you get patients where nothing can be done. The canals were filled to half the length. There were ledges. We could not bypass the ledges. Or a patient who received this bridge, and as the bridge came out, there is a huge compromise below it. We could not retreat it. All these patients are good candidates for implants. Patients having periodontally compromised teeth. Periodontally compromised teeth can be treated and can be reversed in their health status to a point. We do treat patients who are periodontally compromised, and we try and save those teeth, and we get happy when we see reversal of the disease. But at the same time, we also must accept that all specializations have limitation. We cannot expect sky high results from any specialized branch. So, we must know what is reversible and what is not reversible, and we must take decision at that point. When you find any disease which is not reversible, not retreatable, and we know that if we wait, we are going to land up in a compromise, then go ahead and tell that to the patient that maybe the decision is not liked by the patient, not expected by the patient, but you tell him that if he does not undergo extractions now, he can never have implants. Here you can see in a photograph where after doing flap, 3 teeth had to be extracted. During the flap, in fact, we decided to extract, the rest of the teeth are saved. Those 3 teeth after extraction, look at the ridge, there is no bone at all, there is only palatal bone, the height is compromised. To give him teeth, we need to do one autogenous graft. That means he needs to donate bone from his chin or iliac crest, make bone, place implants, and then have teeth. It is a long process, and not only the time matters, but the final outcome is going to be compromised because we started from a compromise. Then we have patients having distal extension edentulous spans. These patients never like dentures, all of you know the reason. You keep on adjusting, they keep on coming back to you, and at the end of the treatment, they come back to you saying, oh, the denture is lying down somewhere in the corner in my house, I never used it, I never liked it, and now we have a further compromise, and that further compromise is non-replacement of teeth causing the entire vertical collapse. Do not wait for that long, because gaining that collapse vertical dimension is difficult. There are irreversible changes happening in bone. These need to be understood by you, and these need to be discussed with patients by you. The scientific terminology for this is disuse atrophy. Anything that is not used for very long time in body prefers to go away, especially the bone. If you do not exercise, your bones are not kept well. You see the difference in a physique of a gymnast and physique of a person who has sedentary life. You get to see atrophied muscles, atrophied bones. Similarly, when teeth are removed, there is no stimulus, because the stimulus of alveolar bone comes from within. The teeth are lost, the bone also goes away. And as the bone goes away, see this photograph of a pinched appearance of the ridge. What are you going to do? The dentures also will not be retentive after some time. Look at the sinus, which is a respiratory cavity. We call it pneumatic because it has active air pressure inside, it is like a balloon. Till the time teeth are present, the balloon stays up. The moment teeth are removed, it comes down, it is called pneumatization. And as it pneumatizes, it is a scene which is not very easy to be treated with an implant, because first we need to do some sinus augmentation or a grafting procedure. All these points need to be discussed with patients. Then patients get ready that okay, this tooth is going, the sinus is high up. Right now if I go only for one implant, I am not going to require any grafting surgery. If I wait for longer time, it is not only the tooth that supra erupts, but the entire segment of the bone with the soft tissue, periosteum and the tooth, the whole thing moves down, and now treating this patient would be difficult. As you can see, the maxillary segment is supra erupted because there are retained root pieces, and the mandibular part also is supra erupted. To treat this patient even with a partial denture is difficult unless you plan it well, do some osteotomy, do some coronoplasty and then treat him. And then the resorption continues in edentulous patients. Look at this photograph which shows you OPG of a patient who has bone of a size of a rib or a pencil. What kind of denture will fit here? Nothing can fit. What kind of implant can you give to this patient? No implant can fit. So why did we wait for that long? Why could we not treat him early, like this patient who lost all his teeth and received 4 implants in anterior segment and got an overdenture placed? And this can go long way, this can stay there for 25-30 years, and he will never have complaint with this denture because this denture is retentive and the denture is also stable. We also get patients who are completely edentulous, and those completely edentulous patients, instead of having conventional dentures, can go for fixed teeth. She is in ideal bone condition, she has good amount of bone. So why don't we think of giving her 16 implants, 8 in upper jaw and 8 in lower jaw, without doing any major surgery, and give her fixed teeth like before and make her happy. So these were few patients who were treated with implants and are happy patients, and I hope all of you also have such patients around you and are proud to have you as their doctor because you have treated them. And before concluding this lecture, I wish to also tell you that when should you offer implants is also important. There are only few points to be discussed. You must offer implants before the extractions are done, because once the extraction is done, the patient starts losing bone. So before the extractions are done, the implants should be offered. You may not do it immediately, but it should be offered before preparing the abutment for the fixed prosthesis. This photograph shows you individual teeth which are prepared. Believe me, in our practice for the past 10 years, we haven't done a fixed bridge. I have not compromised any single healthy tooth in last 10 years. And we give implants to patients without compromises. Before the stage of irreversible periodontal bone loss. Look at this OPG and you see maxillary posteriors are on verge of coming out on their own. Now we are in a complete reverse scenario. The crown would be triple the size of root if we give him implants. We must not wait for this stage to occur. This patient, you can't imagine the age of this patient. This patient is just 27 years of age. He came to me from a very small village. He was patient of aggressive periodontitis. From childhood he was suffering, nobody treated him, nobody guided him. Today he has MBA degree, cannot get a job because he has no teeth in his mouth. He feels very shy to attend an interview, and he came to me in hope that I give him teeth. So all these patients should always get help, get guidance in time before some irreversible change has occurred in their jaw. There is only one last slide to show you that when should you not offer implant. This photograph is of a girl. She came to me, she lost her central incisor in an sport accident in school. She came with that tooth in her hand and one note in other hand, and that note said, Dr. Dene, give her immediate implant. She has lost her tooth today. Look at this photograph. She is a child. She is just 12 years of age. You cannot give implant to her, and you should not give implant to her at this age. Her skeletal growth is not complete. Her jaws are still growing, and if you give her an implant at this age, she will have compromised final crown or final prosthesis when she grows. So this is the only case where you should not be offering implants. You should wait till her growth is complete, at least till she is 18, and only after that you can think of implants. So this lecture was just to orient you towards implantology. if you get patients like this where you can't save the tooth, if you can remove the tooth and give implant and send that patient back home like this, I am sure all those patients are going to be very happy. They are going to send you more patients because they are going to be proud of you. They are going to ask their friends to come and see you, and you are going to grow your practice with successful, happy patients. And that was the goal of implantology, which I incorporated in my practice 17 years ago, and we have been treating patients who come to us for restorations. Thank you very much.